Good morning subscribers, it's Geekonomics here, and today this is a video for those of you studying A2 Economics, and at the moment I am working through the first chapter with regard to budget lines and indifference curves, and this video today, this is a walkthrough, a talk through of the processes and the thinking processes with regard to the diagrams that are on page 10 and 11. So over the next series of videos, I'll try and put together just a series of videos like this, just talking you through how you actually draw these diagrams, because I think that they are quite complicated diagrams. I would certainly advise you to be practicing drawing these, because if you do get these in the exam, and you're really not 100% confident, it's very easy to make a mistake. So I know that some of you prefer the shorter videos. This will be a longer one, but I hope that you reap the benefits and see why it might be better to have a slightly longer video here. So for this one, I'm going to start with the first one, which is in your textbook. This gives you the following scenario. You've got cola, you've got apples, and you're asked to indicate the income and substitution effects when there is an increase in the price of apples. So, our start position is obviously, we have budget line 1, BL1, so that's indicating our initial income, and then we are told, okay, so the price of apples increases. And as you know, when the price of the good increases, then the budget line, rather than shifting, the budget line pivots. So the pivot point will be around this point here on the y-axis, because the price of cola isn't changing, it's the price of apples which are changing. And the pivot point will move the budget line from BL1 to BL2, as follows. So there is our BL2, budget line 2, and we can see that that is caused by a change in price rather than a change in income, because I'm sure, as you're aware, if there was a change in income, the budget line would either be shifting to the right or to the left in the same way that a demand curve would. Okay, next point then. We have got to indicate on this diagram a start point, a start position, which is labelled in your textbook as point A. And so I'm just going to choose point A. It's going to be on budget line 1, because this is our initial initial budget line before the price increase. So I'm just going to put point A there, like so. And that will obviously be tangential to an indifference curve, and the indifference curve I shall draw onto this diagram as follows. So the indifference curve will run something like that. Indifference curve 2. Just remember, when you're labelling these, we do label the indifference curves as higher indifference curves, so indifference curve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as we move out from the origin, because of course as you move out from the origin it represents a higher level of utility. It can be a little confusing because we've got budget line 1 and indifference curve 2, but do be careful on that, and that is the way and the appropriate way to label that. Okay. So we have been told that there has been an increase in the price of apples. And our initial start point, we are deriving this level of utility shown by point A. When the price rises, obviously the price ratio then changes, as shown by this new budget line, BL2. Now let's think about this. When the price of apples rises, what would a rational consumer do? The rational consumer would probably do the following. They would reduce their consumption of apples, because they're relatively more expensive, and buy more cola. Now in doing that, it might be possible for this individual to maintain their original level of utility, shown on indifference curve 2, at the new price ratio. And this is where this thing called the shadow budget line comes in on this diagram. So I'm going to just dash this on with red pen. So we've got our new price ratio shown by this curve here. I am then going to draw on, this is a relatively straight curve. You'll find that you'll have to sort of mess around with the slopes on these and difference curves. So if I was to just change that a little bit, we could get a better diagram here. So we want it to be touching about there, like so. Now I know that this point C will have to be to the left of point A. Why will it have to be to the left of point A? Because the rational individual, oh sorry ladies and gentlemen, the new tannoy system.
Mr. Hall, please come to reception, thank you.
I know that point C will have to be to the left of point A because the rational individual will be saying to themselves, okay, apples are relatively more expensive, I'm going to consume fewer apples, so I'm going to move in this direction, and maybe I can offset that by consuming more cola, so I'm going to move up the y-axis. And you can see that's what's happening when we move from point A to point C. And what are we doing here, ladies and gentlemen, when we effectively consume more cola and less apples? We're substituting cola for apples. And so this effect here is the substitution effect. And as you can see here, it's a negative effect because it is moving us back in the direction here of 0. It's moving us heading back towards the origin. We're moving left on the x-axis. So that's the substitution effect. However, as you know, there's another effect which is going on here, and the other effect will be, well, as a consequence of this price rise, what is happening to my real income? Now, what is real income? Real income is your money wage, W, divided by the price level. So it's effectively your purchasing power. How much can you purchase with a fixed level of income as prices are adjusting upwards and downwards? And the price here is adjusting upwards. So that means if we take this very simple equation, W remains constant, but P is getting bigger. So obviously your real income is falling. Now if your real income is falling, then what will you do as a rational individual? What will you have to do as a rational individual? You will end up consuming fewer units and a smaller basket of goods and services. We know, or we're assuming certainly here in this case, that cola is a normal good and apples are a normal good, and so as a consequence of a reduction in our real income, so the overall real income here has fallen, we will consume less. And so we want then to put our final equilibrium point, if you will, point B, we want that to be to the left of A and C. So I'm going to put that there and draw on my indifference curve. Now remember, this is indifference curve 1 rather than 2 because we're moving back toward the origin. So this is indifference curve 1 and this is point A. So what's happened here, ladies and gentlemen? You can see that we've now moved from C to point A. What's happened here? We're consuming fewer, to point B, what am I talking about? We've moved from C to point B. What's happened? We are consuming fewer apples, moving in this direction, the normal goods, and we are consuming less cola. You can see obviously that it moved downwards here. And so if you really wanted to exaggerate the point, you could in effect actually put that curve, if I just move that slightly, given that this is point A here, this is point C, if you really want to sort of exaggerate it and to show that we've a clear reduction not only in the consumption of cola but also in the consumption of apples, then you could just move that down to there. So IC1. So now this point B is very clearly to the left of C and beneath point A. And that, ladies and gentlemen, this movement from C to B, this, as you know, is referred to as the income effect. And again, this income effect is negative. So the substitution effect is negative, the income effect is negative. Both of these points are reinforcing one another, both of these effects are reinforcing one another, and so ultimately we end up moving from point A to point B. And obviously the final thing I'd like to mention on this is don't forget to label, as I have forgotten to do so, don't forget to label this as BL star, this being what's referred to in your OCR textbook anyway, as the shadow budget line. So that, ladies and gentlemen, I know that's been a little bit longer, and the other video which I've done on this has just presented you with the complete diagram, but I think it's important to walk through, to talk through it with you, to help your understanding. So I hope that's a little bit clearer. And again, if you've any questions on this, obviously, by all means do message me, and I will get back to you with a solution. Bring me solutions. Bye for now.